My mother denied my existence to a neighbor, saying, I only have two sons. When my parents threatened to sue me for exposing the truth, I legally changed my last name and erased them from my life forever. I'm 24 years old. I work as a data analyst at a tech company, and I need to tell this story because I literally just legally changed my last name to erase the last trace of connection to the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. I guess I should start at the beginning. Though, honestly, it's hard to know exactly where a story like this begins, you know? It's not like there was one specific moment where everything went wrong. It was more like a constant accumulation of small things that over time became something huge and impossible to ignore. I'm the youngest of three siblings. Technically, I'm the only daughter in a family with two sons who are basically the definition of perfect according to my parents. Nicholas, the oldest, is like 29 now, and he was always the brain of the family, like the kid who got straight A's without even trying, the one who won all the math and science competitions, the one who got into an Ivy League school on full scholarship. And then, there's Austin, who's 27, and he was the athletic one, the charismatic one, the one who played on every sports team and had like 1,000 friends, the typical popular guy everyone wanted to know. And then there was me, Violet, the daughter my parents apparently didn't even want to have. Looking back now, I can see the signs from when I was really little. But when you're a kid, you don't fully understand these things. You know what I mean? You just know something feels wrong, but you can't put it into words. Like when I was 9 and my parents literally forgot to pick me up from school, and I'm not talking about once or twice. I'm talking about it happened so many times that the teachers started asking me if everything was okay at home. I remember one time specifically because it was raining horribly, like a storm with thunder and lightning, and I stayed waiting under the roof at the school entrance, watching all the other kids leave with their parents until there was nobody left but me, and the principal who stayed waiting with me. They called my house like 5 times and nobody answered. Because it turns out my parents were at Austin's baseball game and had their phones on silent. The principal ended up taking me home herself, and when we got there, my parents hadn't even noticed I wasn't there. Birthday parties were another level of crazy. Honestly, my parents did throw me parties, technically, but they invited their own adult friends instead of my classmates. Like, I'd turn 8 and the house would be full of adults drinking wine and talking about politics, while I sat in a corner with my cake wondering why none of my friends from school were there. When I'd ask if I could invite Grace, my best friend since kindergarten, my mom would say something like, "Oh yeah, sure, invite her," but then she'd never send the invitation, or would forget to tell me the exact date until it was already too late. Meanwhile, Nicholas and Austin's parties were massive events with literally all their friends, bounce houses, magicians, the whole show. The school was where things really got intense because I was a good student. Really good, actually. I don't know if it was because I unconsciously thought that if I got good grades, they'd finally pay attention to me, or just because I liked studying and it was my form of escape, but the point is I ended up being the best in my class. By the time I got to middle school, I was already taking advanced classes, participating in academic competitions, winning awards, all that stuff, but my parents never, and when I say never, I mean never, went to any of my events. Not to the award ceremonies, not to the presentations where I gave speeches, nothing. They always had some excuse, like they had to take Nicholas to look at colleges or Austin had soccer practice or whatever. The moment that really broke me, the one that still hurts when I think about it, was my high school graduation. I was valedictorian. You know what that means? It means I was number 1 in my entire class, the one who was going to give the graduation speech in front of everyone. I had worked for 4 years to get there. I had sacrificed going out and parties to study, and I was finally going to have my moment. I told my parents months in advance. I reminded them every week. I even put the date on the kitchen calendar with red marker so they wouldn't forget. And on graduation day, when I was backstage waiting for my turn to speak, I looked out at the audience, searching for my family, and I saw 3 empty seats where they were supposed to be. 3 completely empty seats in the middle of a sea of families celebrating their kids. I gave my speech with a lump in my throat so big I thought I was going to choke. And when I finished and everyone was applauding, all I could think was that the only people whose approval I really wanted weren't there to see it. Afterward, I found out they had gone to Austin's basketball game, which wasn't even an important game, like it was just a regular season game, nothing special. When I got home that night with my diploma and my honor medal, they were all sitting in the living room watching TV, and my mom said, "Oh right, today was your graduation. How was it?" Like it's something you can just forget like that, like forgetting to buy milk at the supermarket. I went to college on a full scholarship because obviously my parents weren't going to pay a single cent of my education, while they paid for everything for Nicholas and Austin, including apartments and new cars. And I thought maybe the distance would help, that maybe if I wasn't there physically to be ignored, I'd feel better. But the thing is, the distance only made it more obvious how much they didn't care. Like, they never called me, never asked how I was, if I was eating well, if I needed anything. Nothing. I could go months without talking to them, and they didn't care in the slightest. Meanwhile, they talked to my brothers literally every day. My mom would send care packages of home-cooked food to Nicholas and constantly asked Austin about his training and his dates. During the first 2 years of college, I tried to keep in touch. I'd call them, tell them about my classes, about my part-time job, about the projects I was working on. But the conversations were always super short and disinterested, like they'd answer with uh-huhs and mmms while obviously doing something else. Once I was trying to tell my dad about a really important research scholarship I had won, and he interrupted me mid-sentence to yell at Austin something about the game they were watching on TV. He didn't even apologize or ask me to continue. He just kept watching the game like I didn't exist. The moment that really was the straw that broke the camel's back was like 6 months ago, during winter break. I decided to go visit them. I don't know why I still had hope. I guess a part of me was still that 9-year-old girl waiting in the rain for her parents to pick her up. And I arrived on a Friday night. My brothers were there too. So the house was full, and my parents were super animated, cooking and preparing everything. I arrived and literally nobody greeted me beyond a quick hello before continuing with what they were doing. It's fine, I thought. Maybe they're busy. There will be time later to catch up. Saturday afternoon, I was in my room, which was now basically a storage room with a bed. They had left my brother's rooms exactly as they were when they left, like shrines, while mine they had converted into space to store boxes and Christmas decorations. When I heard a knock at the door, it was the neighbor from next door, Mrs. Henderson, who had lived there since I was a baby, and she was coming to say hi and bring cookies. From my room, I could hear perfectly the conversation she was having with my mom at the entrance. Mrs. Henderson asked how the kids were, and my mom started talking wonders about Nicholas and his job at a prestigious consulting firm and about Austin and his athletic achievements. They talked for like 10 minutes about my brothers, about how proud she was of them, about all their accomplishments and future plans. And then Mrs. Henderson asked, "And Violet, how's your daughter?" And my mom, without hesitating for a second, said I only have 2 sons, Nicholas and Austin. Just like that. Like it was nothing. And like I didn't exist. Like I had never existed. I sat there on that bed, surrounded by boxes of Christmas ornaments that were worth more to them than I was, feeling like someone had stuck a knife in my chest and was twisting it. It wasn't that they had forgotten me in that moment. It wasn't a mistake or a lapse. It was a conscious decision to completely erase me from their family narrative. I was literally there in the house, like 30 feet from where they were standing, and my mom had erased me from her life so completely that she didn't even acknowledge my existence in front of a neighbor who had watched me grow up. I didn't go down for dinner that night. I stayed in the room crying silently so nobody would hear me. Old habit from a lifetime of not wanting to bother. And nobody came up to ask if I was okay or why I hadn't come down. The next morning, I waited until I heard everyone was in the dining room having breakfast. I went down with my suitcase already packed and stood at the entrance to the dining room. Everyone was there laughing and passing the bread and orange juice like a perfect postcard of a happy family. And when they saw me with my suitcase, it was my dad who asked, "Are you leaving already?" with the same casual tone you'd use to ask a random acquaintance about the weather. And I just exploded. I told them everything. Absolutely everything I had been holding in for 24 years. I told them about all the times they forgot me at school, about the birthday parties without friends, about graduation, about the ignored calls, about the conversation I had overheard the day before. I told them I was their daughter, that I deserved at least a fraction of the love and attention they gave my brothers, that I didn't understand what I had done so wrong to deserve being treated like I was invisible. My mom just sat there looking at me like I was crazy, and my dad had the nerve to tell me I was being dramatic and exaggerating everything. Nicholas and Austin didn't even say anything. They just looked at me uncomfortably, and that maybe hurt the most because it meant they had also seen it all this time and never said or did anything. I left that house and swore to myself I would never return. And I haven't. I blocked their numbers, deleted them from all my social media, basically cut all contact. But the thing is, I needed more than that. I needed other people to know the truth because my parents are experts at maintaining this perfect image of an ideal family to the outside world. All our relatives, the neighbors, their friends, everyone thinks they're these wonderful and dedicated parents. So, like 3 months ago, I was talking to Grace, my best friend who has basically been more family to me than my real family, and she suggested I write it all down, that I get the whole story out. I don't know why, but I decided to post my complete story on Reddit, on one of those subreddits about family relationships. I wrote everything, from the childhood incidents to the conversation with the neighbor and my final exit. I included specific details, dates, concrete examples of their emotional neglect. I didn't use their real names, obviously, but anyone who knew them could identify the story. I posted it at like 11 at night on a Tuesday, not really expecting much, honestly. I just needed to get it out of my system and maybe get some supportive comments from strangers on the internet. The shit went viral. Like, viral. By the next day, I had thousands of comments and likes. People were sharing my story on other platforms, even some news sites. About Reddit stories had picked it up. The comments were overwhelmingly supportive. People sharing their own similar stories, others validating my feelings and telling me I wasn't crazy, that what they had done to me was emotional abuse and serious neglect. For the first time in my life, I felt like someone was listening to me, like someone really saw me. But obviously my parents found out. I don't know who sent them the link, maybe some relative or friend who saw it, but they found out. And they were furious. Not because they had reflected on their behavior, but because their precious public image was being destroyed. My mom made a post on Facebook saying she had a daughter with mental problems who was spreading horrible lies about the family, and that they were very worried about my well-being and asked for prayers. Like, painting me as the crazy one while they were the concerned victims. Then the messages from relatives started. Uncles, aunts, cousins, all asking me to delete the post, telling me I was being too hard on my parents, that it was surely a misunderstanding, that family is the most important thing, and I should forgive and forget. My Aunt Patricia, my mom's sister, sent me a super long message saying all parents make mistakes, and I was destroying my family for attention, and that when I'm older and have my own kids, I'll understand how difficult parenting is, as if forgetting you have a daughter was a normal parenting mistake. What really made me angry was when I received a certified letter from a lawyer. My parents sent me a fucking cease and desist letter, demanding I delete the post immediately because I was defaming their character and causing them emotional and reputational harm. The irony was so absurd I almost laughed. Like, they caused me emotional harm for 24 years, but now that I tell the truth, suddenly I'm the bad guy, and they're threatening me legally. Instead of deleting the post, I did an update. I uploaded screenshots of the messages from my relatives pressuring me. A photo of the cease and desist letter with personal legal information blacked out, obviously. And here's the part that really made it go even more viral. I uploaded a photo I had taken during my high school graduation. It's a photo of the audience from the stage, and you can see super clearly the 3 empty seats where my family was supposed to be, surrounded by complete families applauding. That image said more than any words I could write. The update got even more response than the original post. People were outraged, commenting about the audacity of my parents to threaten me legally after everything they had done to me. Some lawyers in the comments said the cease and desist letter had no legal merit because I was telling my own lived experience, not making up lies, and that truth is an absolute defense against defamation. That made me feel more secure about keeping the post up. 2 weeks ago, I made the most liberating decision of my life. I went to the courthouse and filed the papers to legally change my last name. I didn't want to carry their name for one more day. I didn't want to have that permanent connection with people who never loved me. I chose my maternal grandmother's maiden name, my mom's mom, who died when I was like 7, but who was always sweet to me in the few memories I have of her. Her name was Elena, and I always felt like she did see me, you know? The process was surprisingly simple. I filled out the forms, paid the fees, waited the required period, and boom, I had a new last name. When I received the official documents with my new name, I cried. But they were good tears, like tears of relief and freedom. Grace was with me when I got them, and she gave me a huge hug and told me she was proud of me, and that meant more to me than anything my parents could have said or done. I also erased them from all my official documents. I changed my name on my driver's license, on my passport, on my insurance. On everything. I updated all my records at work and at the university so there wouldn't be any trace of connection to them. It was like a rebirth, like finally being able to start my life on my own terms without the weight of their constant rejection. But the holidays are right around the corner, and for the first time in my life, I don't feel that horrible anxiety. I always felt thinking about having to spend time with my family. Grace invited me to spend Thanksgiving with her and her family, and I'm planning to have a Christmas dinner at my apartment with friends, people I've actively chosen, people who really want to be there, people who see me and value me for who I am. I'm going to cook, we're going to exchange gifts, we're going to laugh and create our own traditions. I'm not going to lie and say everything is perfect now or that it doesn't still hurt. There are moments where I wonder what's wrong with me that my own parents couldn't love me, even though I rationally know the problem was never me. Sometimes I see families together at restaurants or in the park and I feel a pang of something. I don't know if it's envy or sadness or what, but every day that passes, I feel a little lighter, a little more free from that need for their approval that haunted me for so long. The Reddit post is still up. By the way, I'm never going to delete it because it's my story, my truth, and I earned the right to tell it after years of being silenced and erased. It has like 40,000 comments now, and I still get messages from people thanking me for sharing my experience, saying it helped them validate their own situations with toxic families. That makes it all worth it, knowing that my pain is at least helping others feel less alone. My brothers never contacted me after all this. Not to apologize, not to explain, nothing. And you know what? That's fine. They chose their side a long time ago, and I've chosen mine. My family now is Grace, and my friends, they're the people who chose me when my biological family didn't. Last week, we were all having pizza at my apartment, and someone made a comment about how lucky we were to have each other, and I realized that for the first time in my life, I feel truly seen, truly part of something. And that's enough. It's more than enough.